Welcome everyone to Thirsty for Information. We are so glad to have Petrik present today. She's our training specialist at Elderwerks. Please be aware that this presentation and the chat box is being recorded. Before we get started, I would like to explain about what Elderwerks does. Elderwerks is a nonprofit organization that provides complimentary assistance to seniors and their families. We can help with senior living, home care, or referrals for other support services. If you need assistance or support or know of any seniors who need help, we would be happy to assist. If you require CE credit for this webinar, please complete the evaluation we sent to you via email and return it to events@elderwerks.org. Remember that you must stay for the entire presentation in order to get full CE credit. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please use the Q&A button on your screen to ask Chris questions. Please note that you will be muted during the presentation. We will be taking questions at the end. I am now going to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, Dylan, and welcome everyone to Thirsty for Information. My name is Chris Petrik. I'm the training specialist for Elderwerks. I'm also a registered nurse. I've been in healthcare for 40 plus years. I've been in various parts of healthcare, with the last 15 years being in working with older adults. I was part of the faculty at a local community college and have had time with continuing care retirement communities, both as manager of education and director of wellness and education. So that was just a little bit of my background, and welcome. We're going to talk about the benefits of water today, and I thought I'd start out with something just to make you smile. The human body is about 90% water, so basically we're cucumbers with anxiety. So what we're going to be talking about today is the importance of water on the body's systems, how water will keep you healthy, what happens to your body when you are dehydrated, signs and symptoms of dehydration, changes in our body as it ages, it affects how much we drink, and how water helps regulate body temperature and reduce infection. And then foods that are packed with water. So why is water so important? The body just is not going to function without it. In general, a person can live approximately 3 to 5 days without water. A lot of the research that I did, there's some discrepancies on how much water there is in your body, how long you can live without it. So I'm going to sound vague in some instances. And with the research that I did, they say you can live 3 to 5 days without water. And there's some variables on that, and that's why there's that little bit of gap in there. It really depends on the well-being of your body. If you're taking just sips of fluid, which is why someone who's in hospice can live longer without water, because they're taking ice chips, they're taking sips of water. But if you had no water at all, we're looking at 3 to 5 days. The body will not function as necessary without adequate water. So here's some water facts. Water is not stored in the body, and it has to be replaced every day. So it comes in and it goes out. There's really no place that it's stored. Although we may look at our ankles and say, I know where my water is being stored because I have fluid there, but it's not really appropriately stored there. That's not supposed to happen. Water makes up about 70% of the human body weight, and about 80% of brain tissue is made up of water. Every day, the human body loses about 1/2 gallon of water through normal breathing, perspiration, and urination. You've probably heard a lot about, and I'm sure you all have heard about the aerosol coming out of our mouth with COVID-19 and how long the virus can stay in the air. And what helps that protrude is the aerosolation that our body creates from that water when we breathe. Here's an interesting fact. You can drink about 4,000 glasses of tap water for the price of a 6-pack of your favorite soft drink. So if you're looking to save money and you want to drink appropriately, you want to be drinking water. Of course, you don't want to drink 4,000 glasses of it. at a time, and I don't think anybody could, but that's just looking at the price of pop or whatever your soft drink of choice is. The average amount of water you need per day is about 3 liters, which is about 13 cups for men, and 2.2 liters, which is about 9 cups for women. And we'll talk about what the appropriate intake of water should be every day. By the time you feel thirsty, your body has lost more than 1% of its total water. We're going to talk about a part of our brain that we call our thirst center in a few minutes, and that helps us recognize the fact that we're thirsty. That is one of the things that declines as we age. So when we get older, we don't drink as much as we do when we're younger. And one of the reasons is because our thirst center is not working like it used to. And we'll address that again. Drinking water can help you lose weight by increasing your metabolism, which helps you burn calories faster. So that's why if you've ever been part of Weight Watchers or a weight loss program and you're kind of stuck at a plateau with your weight loss, they tell you to increase your water intake, and that's why, because it increases your metabolism. The average person could live without food for nearly a month, but we can only, and here's a discrepancy, we can only survive about 1 week without water because it is essential. So 3 to 5 days is really what we're looking at in not taking in any water. Good hydration can prevent arthritis. With plenty of water in your body, there is less friction in your joints, and that decreases your chances of developing arthritis. Now we know arthritis is an autoimmune disease for many, but we're talking more about the arthritis that we get with aging or the arthritis we get because we've been an athlete in our younger life. And we'll be talking about the different body systems and what happens with our body systems when we don't have enough water. There is the same amount of water on Earth as there was when the planet was formed. Believe it or not, the water you drink could share the same molecules that dinosaurs drank. And I know sometimes when you travel outside the area where the water is chlorinated, well, that has a particular taste to it. And I was someplace last year where there was well water, and it probably tasted like the molecules from dinosaurs. So we're going to talk about the different body systems and water. We're going to talk about the digestive tract, the heart, the GI tract, digestive tract, and the respiratory and cardiovascular tract system. So we'll start with the respiratory system. What does water do for a respiratory system? Well, first of all, it flushes out toxins from the lung. It also thins mucus, and dehydration can make it difficult to clear out the mucus. And again, not to go back to COVID-19, but anytime you have a flu or a virus or a really bad cold, that's why they tell you to drink plenty of fluids. If you are not drinking fluids and you're dehydrated, not only will it cause your fever to go up, which challenges your metabolic system, but also it won't thin that mucus enough that you're going to be able to cough it up. And a lot of that virus during cold and flu season kind of hibernates inside those little molecules of that mucus. And if you're not getting it up, it's going to be harder for you to get rid of that virus. The respiratory system also reduces the histamine production. When we have a foreign body enter our body, or we have a virus enter our body, and let's take allergy season for an example. During allergy season, your eyes get runny, your nose gets runny. That's because of the stimulation and the release of histamine. It's your body's defense system saying, hey, I've got something in my body that is not good for me, and the histamine is released to protect it. But we know that when the histamine is released, it causes an inflammatory process. again, going back to COVID with this, that's what's making this difficult for people to recover, because the lungs get very inflamed, and that is because of the histamine production and the release of histamine. So drinking plenty of water helps reduce that production. So we need water to breathe, obviously. So when we're dehydrated, you'll see an increase of white blood cell production. Again, part of your inflammatory and your defense against infection is the release of white blood cells. So when you release white blood cells, you're going to see an inflammatory process. It also, when you're dehydrated, can stimulate or worsen your asthma. So again, if someone out there who's listening has asthma, and especially in this dreadful weather that we've been having, it's really advisable to continue sipping on your fluids, for, particularly water, to help decrease the asthma attacks. The next one is our cardiac system. Water is also critical to your heart health. The heart is continually working, and it's pumping approximately 2,000 gallons of blood per day. And there's a lot of oxygen, and obviously that's what your blood is doing, is transporting that oxygen to all your cells. But inside those blood cells is water. So it transports nutrients through the body. When it's dehydrated, you'll see an increase in blood pressure, and you'll see initially you'll see an increase in blood pressure, and then you'll see an increase in the heart rate. If you get dehydrated enough and all that water is pulled out of the blood gets tacky and clumpy, and that's where you get blood clots. And you got what's called deep vein thrombosis, or blood clots that can start in your legs and travel to your heart and lungs, which can be catastrophic for you. So again, if you're someone that forms clots, maybe because of atrial fib or trauma, or you just have a clotting factor, it's very good idea to keep yourself well hydrated. Your gastrointestinal system. Water forms the base of your saliva and is present in the mucus and salivary juices of our digestive systems. So going down to the very bottom point down there, good hydration can help reduce cavities and tooth decay. People who don't drink a lot tend to have more cavities than people who don't, because the hydration does two things. It produces saliva, which moves a lot of that bacteria out of your mouth, but also it flushes anything that's living on your tongue and your gums and any place else. Saliva is especially important for moving food through your digestive tract. So when we talk about the digestive tract, it starts in your mouth and it ends on your bottom. And water does wonders for both of those. It also assists in the part of the immune system located in the gut. There's a whole little immune system that's in our gut that keeps us well, and that water will help that immune system keep flowing good. And it helps alleviate constipation by moving food through the intestinal tract. A lot of times older adults are constipated. It might be because their GI tract is slowing down, but oftentimes it's because we're not drinking enough. And we're not drinking enough for a couple of reasons. We're not drinking enough because our thirst center is declining, but we also may not be drinking a lot because we're having a little problem with our bladder control, and we don't want to be out someplace where we have an accident. So oftentimes older adults tend to stay behind on their fluids, and that can be a problem, because if you look at that immune system and you look at the bladder is in a warm, dark place in your body. And take yourself back to high school biology, when we all took those agar dishes and we put a little bacteria on the agar dish, and then we put it in a heater, and we came back to school the next day and there was a lot of growth on that agar dish. And that's because it was in a warm hot place for that to grow. Your urine may have a little too much sugar in it, and especially if you're diabetic. And if you know what the agar dish is made of, primarily that's sugar. So we are a perfect science experiment for growing bacteria in our bladder. The one way we can flush out that bacteria is by drinking a lot of fluids. So not only will it help alleviate constipation, it also will help flush out our bladder so we don't end up getting urinary tract infections, which for older adults can be pretty difficult. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the thermal control of our body. It also processes toxins out of the liver. But when we are dehydrated, the body's detoxification pathways become overburdened, and the toxins are more likely to accumulate in the colon, which increase the overgrowth of unhealthy microorganisms, and that will weaken the immune system. So that might increase your chances for colon cancer. And then I said good hydration will help reduce cavities and tooth decay. So that's the GI system and the importance of water, drinking plenty of water on the GI system. Our immune system is in our body to assist in elimination of toxins and waste materials. It also helps oxygenate the blood, and it helps in the production of lymph. And lymph is one of the biggest parts of our immune system. It also helps in bones, joints, ligament, and skin. And I'm just taking a drink of my water. It serves as a lubricant. And so, as we age or if we're younger and we've been very active athletically, we may find that our joints are creaking and not moving as well as they used to. But keeping your fluids up will serve as a lubricant for those joints. It also assists in maintaining proper muscle tone by allowing muscles to exercise their natural ability of contracting. So our muscles work in unison with our body, and they contract and then they release, particularly when we're exercising. And if we're not well hydrated, that's when we end up getting muscle cramps during our training. When the water content of the muscle cells is reduced, you'll get that cramping, but it also results in stiffness and pain. Because the muscles hold your bones in place, stiffness can cause misalignment in your bone structure, such as in your spine, and can cause pain. So you'll see in one of the slides going forward that one of the things that you can do if you're having some back pain is to increase your fluids, because it'll lubricate the spinal column and those little pads or the discs in between the vertebrae. Water can also plump the skin and leave it clear, healthy, and resilient. I took care of a lady once, this was many years ago, and she had absolutely beautiful skin. She had the skin of a 30-year-old, and maybe some of it was genetic and hereditary, but I asked her why her skin was so beautiful at the age of 88, and she said that she drank so many glasses of water a day, but she also applied rose water to her face every day. That's what she washed her face in. So everybody has their own technique for cleaning their face, and that was hers, and obviously it worked well for her. So if we look at water in the human body, we have about 75% or 80%. Again, you're going to see discrepancies in those numbers in the brain. In the blood, it's about 83% water. In the heart, it's about 79% water. Bones is about 22%. Muscle is up there about 75%. The liver is about 85%, and the kidneys are about 83%. And if you've ever had the opportunity even just to look at an animal brain, animal heart, liver, and kidneys, they definitely are more mushy, and that's that water content. Okay. Water also helps regulate temperature. It regulates our body temperature by slowly, and is able to help regulate temperature by serving as a good heat source material. It cools and heats the body through perspiration, and it regulates metabolism. And now we're talking about our thirst mechanism, and our thirst mechanism is the area of the brain that contributes to the sense of thirst. It's mainly located in the midbrain and a little bit in the hindbrain, and it's called the hypothalamus, and it plays a key role in regulation of thirst. It also regulates emotion, hunger, and our circadian rhythm, so how we sleep and we don't sleep. So the hypothalamus, if we have a disease such as dementia, or you've had a brain injury and the midbrain has been affected, not only will you see an inability to regulate your body temperature, but you also might see changes in emotion, changes in hunger, and changes in someone's sleep pattern. So, think about that when you think of someone who has had dementia and they're up all night and they're, dozing during the day. It might be because the damage that the dementia is causing, or if they had a brain injury, is because it's in the midbrain and it's affecting the hypothalamus. But it plays a key role in thirst mechanism. And again, because our body naturally ages, I'm not saying it's completely gone and it's, the same as someone with dementia, but it may be cause you to be a little behind on your fluids. So for any of the older adults out there, think about that. Think about things that will cause you to decrease your fluids. It's going to be your thirst mechanism. It's going to be your idea that you may have an accident and you don't want to be embarrassed, or you may be going someplace and you don't know where the bathrooms are, or they're too far to go. That's going to cause you to be a little behind on your fluids. My suggestion is when you get home from those activities, hydrate, 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 so you catch up on those fluids, because otherwise you may end up that science experiment I just talked about and end up with a urinary tract infection. Water and weight loss. Water is essential for weight loss. One thing it does is suppresses the appetite naturally, but it also helps the body metabolize and store fat. The overweight person will need to drink more water than a slim person, and again, it is key to fat metabolism. During any weight loss program, water must be supplied in larger amounts as the body has a lot of fat and toxins to metabolize. So, my idea for this, and I have to admit, I've done this presentation before and I've done this research. I'm probably one of the worst water drinkers out there. My hypothalamus doesn't tell me I'm thirsty. I am, by the time your lips are parched or your mouth is dry, you're already starting to be dehydrated. And I probably walk around like that for most of my day. So I have to consciously think about drinking water. And we'll talk about some of the things that we can do to make that happen. But the one thing I do is I can't drink a large glass of water at one time. It makes me nauseous. So I fill up one of the big cups, the thermal cups, and I prefer drinking through a straw, and I just sip on that all day. And by the time my day is done, I have finished about 8 to 10 ounces of water. At least I'm getting that down, and then I'm substituting with foods that we'll talk about. So how does our human body lose water? Again, anywhere between 70 to 90% is water. It's lost by the body either through the skin or respiration. It's also the kidneys filter it, and so we're probably urinating out about 120 to 150 or 1 to 2 quarts of urine per day, and the kidney is filtering that blood. We're losing about 1,400 of it in the air that we breathe. And sweating, our skin, we're losing about 400 milliliters every day. So we're losing our fluids every day, and there's no way that our body can replace those fluids unless we replace them by drinking more, taking in more. Factors that influence water needs, and again, it's going to depend on different people's general health, level of activity, where you live, exercise, environment, and pregnancy and breastfeeding. So your general health. If you're generally well, 8 to 10 glasses of water per day is going to be your normal intake. However, if you're someone that is working outside in this heat, if you work construction, if you're a roads person out working on the roads, if you're, you know, working at a day camp, you're going to increase your fluids because you're going to be losing it through perspiration. So when we talk about level of activity and environment, that's what we need to take into consideration. Where you live. So if you live in Florida where it's extremely humid, you're probably need to take in more fluids. If you live in Arizona where it's extremely dry, you're probably going to need to take in more fluids. You need to take in more fluids while you're exercising. If you don't, and that's when those drinks that are supplemented with electrolytes, something like Gatorade, are effective because you're replacing those electrolytes as you're losing them. Otherwise, you're going to end up with cramps. And then last is pregnancy and breastfeeding. You're feeding and you're drinking for 2 now, and they tell you that you need to be drinking lots of fluids when you're pregnant. I worked labor and delivery for 22 years, and we would have women coming in preterm labor and putting them on the monitor, and they would be having contractions because your uterus is a muscle, and if you're not hydrating that muscle, it's going to start cramping. So we'd put them on the monitor, they would have contractions. We'd say, how much did you drink today? Oh, I wasn't feeling well. I was busy with my other kids. I didn't have anything to drink. So they were very behind on their fluids. We'd start an IV and give them a liter of fluids over a couple hours, and we'd send them home. They'd be perfectly fine. And they'd come back at 9 months when they were ready to be in labor. And we would tell them one of those big things, fill it with water and ice and just sip on it all day long. So we're going to talk about dehydration and symptoms. I've got a little video for you. And then we'll talk about it more.
Ever felt so thirsty that you are wondering if this is a sign that something is wrong? Have you ever noticed an abnormal drop of your body weight? Feeling weak and lethargic? Perhaps the cause of all of these symptoms and more is dehydration. Dehydration is nothing minor to play with, and if you don't pay attention, it may even threaten your life in extreme cases. In this video, we will discuss the common dehydration symptoms and signs. Dehydration basically occurs when you lose an excess number of water and fluids from your system. There are many things that may cause this. One cause is intense workout, which expels much of your body's fluids through sweat. If fluids are not replaced by drinking water, you can become dehydrated. Another common cause that leads to dehydration is when you are exposed to hot environments. Heat causes, in this case, a rise in internal temperature, and your body has no other option than to sweat to compensate for the heat, which of course expels liquids out of your system. Nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea are also conditions that may cause dehydration, and you are making matters worse if you fail to drink water while nauseous. Many will ask at this point, how do I know if I'm dehydrated? Apart from obviously feeling thirsty, you may experience many different symptoms that show that you are not properly hydrated. A common symptom is memory lapses. Since our brains are made up from 90% water, they are the first organ to show signs of dehydration, which will come in the form of memory lapses, headaches, and possible dizziness. Another sign of dehydration is if you pee on an infrequent basis, or if your pee has a strange color. Yes, it may sound disgusting, but its actual color actually gives you a hint on the status of urine and water in your system. If it's a pale orange or brown color instead of pale yellow, it probably means that you are dehydrated beyond normal levels. Performance-wise, you may notice that you really struggle to make it through the gym or a sport game. Our bodies need water to oxygenate the blood, and if oxygen levels fall, our body's performance and energy will simply suffer. Finally, take a look at your skin's condition. Since our skin is the largest external organ connected to internal circulation of liquids and nutrients, anything we put or don't put into our systems will have a great impact on how our skin looks. If you have noticed that your skin looks dry, rough, patchy, or less stretchy than before, dehydration may be among the top causes. So how do you keep dehydration at bay? By ingesting a good portion of fruits, veggies with a high water content, and low-calorie drinks and plain water without any sugars or fat. Dry and processed junk food, as well as alcohol, are also a big no-no, as they exaggerate dehydration issues and make your system expel liquids faster. And if you are looking for a natural weight loss solution, I recommend you click the link in the description, www.serious-fitness.
Okay, we're not here to advertise but that's just a good example of dehydration. So let's talk a little bit about dehydration, because that happens to people. And what is it? It's really the excess loss of water from the body tissue. You're just not bringing in enough water to keep your body healthy and well. And again, it could be from excess perspiration. It could be from a temperature, from flu or a virus. It could be that you're just not, your thirst center's not working, you're not bringing in enough fluids. If it's severe enough, the body may also lose sodium, potassium, chloride, and other electrolytes, causing an imbalance. And when we look at those electrolytes, we're now affecting other organs, cardiac, we're looking at the kidneys, so it can start causing harm to the rest of the body. It can occur when fluids are lost and not adequately replaced, especially when an individual does not drink enough. So here's our signs of dehydration: dry mouth, increased thirst, headache, dry skin, urine output more yellow than normal, decreased urine output, dizziness, and a few or no tears, and heartburn. I'm going to kind of go back up and tell you that the first signs are going to be dry mouth and increased thirst and headache. When I was younger and more ambitious, I just lost a friend to breast cancer. So I decided to do the Avon 3-day run walk. And that was run walking, whatever we chose, 60 miles over 3 days. And they had, porta potties set up along the route. And they had people standing by the porta potties, and when we got out of those, we had to tell the person standing there what color our urine was, because that showed that healthcare professional that we were well hydrated, and if not, we were directed right to the hydration station, and we were not allowed to continue until we had something more to drink. Because and it was in June, it was hot, and I can remember 1 or 2 times where the color of my urine changed and I was directed to the hydration station. At that point, I really didn't think I was dehydrated, because I wasn't having a headache, and I typically don't have those good signs of dehydration. So that was very helpful to be able to look at that. Fewer no tears, you're getting pretty dehydrated when that's starting to occur. And then heartburn, and we don't think of heartburn as a sign of dehydration. And oftentimes when we have heartburn, the first thing that we reach for is a Tums or something, one of the calcium tablets. And before we do that, we should probably reach for a drink of water, because it might just be that we're dehydrated. When you start to see no urine output, that's when you know you're significantly dehydrated. I will tell you from a medical standpoint, if someone is in hospice and they are in the process of dying, that's one of the things that we look at is the urine output. And if someone's having less than 30 cc's an hour, we know that they're in the active dying phase. And so we really look to the urine output significantly when we see that, but also in dehydration. So dizziness, you start to get lightheaded. At first, your blood pressure is going to go up and your pulse is going to go up, but as you get into the critical stages of dehydration, you're going to see that blood pressure go down. Lack of perspiration. One of the things that we tell people who work outside, our policemen, our construction workers, our road crews, we tell them, when you stop sweating, you need to get inside because you are severely dehydrated at that point. You become lethargic, sluggish, and then the last three things: confusion, coma, and then you go into what we call multi-system organ failure, because now your organs are not getting any of the fluids and you've lost your electrolytes, and it can go to death. So that's signs of dehydration. Well, the big question is, will other fluid intake replace water? And first of all, caffeine will not, because it acts as a diuretic and causes you to lose more fluids. A diuretic is something that pulls the fluids out of your body. So caffeine won't work. So if you're going to drink your water in the morning, you better fill that cup with a large thing of water to make sure that you're sipping on that the rest of the day, because that caffeine is going to go right through you. Excess water actually can inhibit the body from absorbing water, and also alcoholic drinks are diuretics. Now, sports drinks tend to be high in added sugars and calories, but again, those should only be used when you're intensely exercising for more than an hour. So someone who's at a soccer practice, or someone who's at baseball practice, or if you spend more than an hour at the gym. Energy drinks generally are not formulated to replace electrolytes, and in fact, generally energy drinks have a lot of caffeine in them and have been noted to cause cardiac arrest in the younger population. So you don't want to drink a lot of energy drinks because of the caffeine. So the big question is, how much water should we drink? And I've mentioned 8 glasses of water a day. They should be about 8 to 10 ounces per glass. Again, that would be essential for dehydration. And again, it depends on age, your size, and other contributing factors. Again, pregnancy, you want to drink a lot more than that. You want to increase your fluids if you're not a big water drinker, but coming to this has made you think I need to drink more water because it's healthy for me. You want to increase your fluids a little bit every day. Your body's not going to tolerate you drinking 8 ounce or 10 ounce glasses of water every day overnight. So you're going to have to build to it. And we want to reach like that breakthrough. And the breakthrough for you would be if you have swelling in your ankles and your swelling starts to go away, then you know you've reached your breakthrough. Also, when you start to urinate more. But I will tell you that a lot of people don't want to drink a lot of water because they'll think they urinate more, and you will at first. But as your body accommodates to that appropriate amount of water, you'll taper down on that. So don't be afraid to drink that water. Yes, you will go to the bathroom a little bit more first, but it will taper down. So here's a list of foods that are high in water content. We live in the wrong climate for this, because if you look at the ones that are in the middle, the high ones, it's watermelon, strawberries, cantaloupe, peaches, cucumbers, and those fresh things. I just noticed cauliflower is spelled wrong. Sorry about that. You notice that those are summer vegetables and summer fruits. We can still get them, but they always cost more, and they're not as fresh when you can't get them in a farmer's market or delivered fresh to your favorite store. Looks like lettuce, celery, coconut water, iceberg lettuce, and soup are in the higher end. I have a brother-in-law who just lost 35 pounds. He went from taking metformin for diabetes to not being a diabetic. He was a type 2 diabetic based on his weight. And he decided that what he's heard about metformin being a cause of dementia, which hasn't been proven 100%, but you never want to take more medicine than you have to. And so he decided to go on a diet. One of the things he did, very interesting, and it was through the winter that he did this, so that was helpful, was instead of having other things at lunch, he had a bowl of soup. And it wasn't your creamy soups. This was soup that was packed with vegetables, but it was a broth-based soup. And then he had a regular breakfast, and he had usually a piece of salmon or chicken and a vegetable at dinner time. And he lost that weight, and he is no longer diabetic, and he is off his metformin. So by increasing his water in his food, it did the trick for him. So soup is a good source of water. But we've got watermelons, strawberries, cantaloupe, peaches, skim milk, zucchini, cucumber, tomatoes, cabbage, bell peppers, cauliflower, spinach, and honeydew melon in the midsection. And then as we look to the 60 to 88%, oranges have 88%, plain yogurt 88, grapefruit. I thought grapefruit would have more, and oranges just because you can squeeze the juice out of them, but I guess not. 85%, and then baked chicken 65. I was surprised salmon didn't have more. It was only 62%. Keep in mind though that anything that you cook in water, such as rice or noodles, are going to absorb some of the water. So, you know, if you're using rice or noodles as your carb in a meal, you're still going to get a little bit of fluid from them if you cook them in water. Tips for increasing your water intake. Keep a bottle of water with you at all times. And again, that's the only way I've been able to do this is fill my water. I have one of those the aluminum or metal glasses with the straw that keeps the water cold all day. And again, I just sip on that all day long. You can create a buddy system with a friend to support you, but I also downloaded a drinking app. And just go into an app store. There's tons of them, and many of them are free. And what it does is my phone just vibrates every so often to remind me to take a sip of my water. When I was working full time, I would walk in my office in the morning and I would have my water bottle full. And as I was getting my desk set up, I would take a drink of water, and then I would forget about it all day because I got busy. And when I left with almost a full bottle of water. So having something that reminds you, you can use Post-it notes. But remember, it takes about 40 days for you to reinforce a new habit. So don't get discouraged. If you forget a day, just get back on it. It's like being on a diet. You're gonna fall off and think you're not doing the right thing, but you get back on and you keep plugging away and drinking that water. So let's talk about some of our problems and our solutions. Problem, not recognizing heartburn as a sign of dehydration and treating with antacids and pills that could in time produce inflammation of the stomach and duodenum. Hiatal hernia, ulceration, and eventually cancers in the GI tract, which also include the liver and the pancreas. Heartburn can be a signal of water shortage in your upper GI tract, and it's often a major thirst signal of the human body. So using the antacids in the treatment doesn't really correct the dehydration. It'll make you feel better temporarily, but it's not really doing anything about that water shortage. So the solution is drink more water. Migraine headaches, if not accompanied by that, your normal migraine triggers could be a sign of dehydration. If your eyes hurt, it could be a sign of dehydration. You can drink water and prevent the migraines. And low back pain, which I talked about, and ankylosing arthritis or spondylolisthesis of the spine could be signs of a water shortage in the spinal column and discs. And again, the water helps cushion and support the weight of the body. And again, water can reduce your back pain. Not cure it, but it certainly will help. High cholesterol. If you're not well hydrated, cholesterol is an important part of our body. It really is there to help manufacture nerve cell membranes and hormones. But if you're not hydrated, they may get clumpy and they can cause a higher blood cholesterol. So one of the things, along with other things that you may do, and again, high cholesterol can be hereditary for people, so I'm not saying this water is the end all be all, but keeping yourself well hydrated, just like it does with the blood, it's gonna prevent that cholesterol from getting clumpy. This is a little video on how we use water every day, how much water we use, and the global water crisis. It was very interesting, so we'll take a minute to see this. Okay. So while we're, during this whole webinar, I've asked you to increase or suggest it. I have, now I'm asking you to look at how you can conserve water. And again, it's not asking you to conserve water that you're intaking to keep your body healthy, but think about when you're leaving your faucet run or you're flushing the toilet excessively. You're using paper and not reusing it. You're not using a reusable bottle. You're using the plastic ones. Think about how much water that takes for those to happen. And to have a last laugh with you, my first joke is, why does water never laugh at jokes? Because it has a dry sense of humor. And how do you make holy water? You boil the hell out of it. So I want to thank you all for coming today. I'll be around for a few minutes for any questions or any comments. I hope that you join us again at Elderwerks. We have some interesting things coming up. for our consumers, and talking about brain health and dementia and the benefits of laughter. So, hope to see you again at one of our next webinars. And again, thank you very much. And I'll give it back to Dylan at this point.
Oh, it's not working. Well, I just want to say thank you, Chris Petrik, for presenting. And if you need CE credit, please email your completed evaluation to events@elderwerks.org, and we will send you your certificate. Have a great day, everyone.